As I've made a shift in the content on this channel, I've realized that there are quite a few manga and quite a few anime out there that, while I was focusing my view on specifically Naruto, I was completely ignoring. I've been ignoring things like the My Hero manga, Black Clover manga, and many other things that I think I could have been enjoying, but due to just my narrowed lens and my narrow focus on one particular series, I was kind of missing out on. One of these manga that I've been enjoying myself while reading is Berserk. Now, from the title and thumbnail, you may be wondering, if I'm enjoying myself, why would I be conflicted on my ideas of Berserk? Or why am I conflicted, as I say in my thumbnail? And before I get into that, before I really can in depth explain why I'm conflicted on Berserk, I must first give you guys a little bit of backstory, just a slight bit, nothing too crazy. I know a fellow YouTuber named The Masked Man. He's a relatively big YouTuber, a little bit bigger than I am, and he's someone who does Berserk videos and does videos that are relatively similar to the content that I'm doing now. As someone who I would consider friends with Masked Man, he does talk about Berserk quite a bit, especially considering that's probably one of his favorite manga and one of the manga that he considers one of the best. Obviously, because of this and because of us continuously talking for quite a long time, I myself have picked up on a little bit of knowledge on what Berserk is and how the story progresses. As a result of this, I know things that I shouldn't. For example, I know what Griffith is going to do later down the line. I know how the Band of the Hawk is going to have to interact with Griffith. I know what's going to happen to somebody like Guts and Casca during the eclipse. And this is why I say that I'm conflicted. Even though Berserk is trying to elicit certain emotions from me with the manga, it's trying to get me connected to Griffith, it's trying to get me connected to every single character, and I genuinely think that it does so well and it executes this correctly, I feel this weird, strange feeling whenever it tries to do so, almost as if I'm having a premonition of something that's bad that's happening, right? And of course, due to my explanation, you can kind of see where I'm coming from. The spoilers aren't per se ruining the story of Berserk or ruining the quality of Berserk. I can still see clearly, no matter how I feel, that Berserk is well written, the art is amazing, the pacing's good, everything about Berserk is just screaming that it's a good manga, and it's just a well put together piece of art. But when I read it, and specifically when I think about characters like Griffith, I feel a sense of impending dread or impending doom. Griffith hasn't reached any of the stages of, let's just say, insanity that I think he will reach later on throughout Berserk. But I can already, I feel like I can see the foreshadowing, I can see the writing on the walls, simply due to the fact that I have a little bit of insight onto what Berserk truly is and what it'll truly become. Now, as someone who's not read Berserk that far into it by the making of this video, I can still tell that Berserk is going to be a very dark story. But the thing is, I wouldn't know how dark if I hadn't been essentially told about this in advance. Now, this is no, hate towards anybody, because I didn't even expect myself to read Berserk, so of course, I couldn't expect anybody else to be tiptoeing around me when it came to talking about the Berserk plot. Nor do I think that the spoilers, or nor that I think that this knowledge necessarily makes me like Berserk less. In fact, I would go as far to say that it makes me notice certain nuances and details about the story, and about Griffith, and about the characters, and the Band of the Hawk, that I wouldn't necessarily pick up on if I didn't know the outcome. If you guys don't know about Berserk, and you guys are watching this video just because you know me, I definitely recommend that if you are someone who can stomach violence, dark themes, horrific imagery, and just experience the worst that you think humanity has to offer, and then some, I think Berserk is something you should read. If you aren't interested in that kind of thing, if you aren't interested in taking a deep dive into the darkness and the cave that is the human mind and just the human race, I do not recommend Berserk. I don't think it'll be something that's down your alley. I don't think it'll be something that interests you, or it may even be something that disgusts you and makes you a little bit adverse to reading manga like that. I think Berserk has a specific type of person that it appeals to, and luckily I think I am one of those people. Now, I don't want to spoil Berserk, and I don't want to get too deep into the plot of Berserk in this video. This video isn't really much of an analysis either. It's more of me explaining to you guys and explaining to everybody that decided to click on this video what I think about Berserk, regardless of being spoiled of major plot points. For everybody that's, read Berserk and is completely caught up to it, you know what happens. You know what the eclipse is. You know what happens to Griffith, to Casca, to Guts, to the Band of the Hawk. So I don't need to write that out. I don't need to spell that out for you. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that you should be able to guess how I feel, or at least understand to a degree why I feel this sort of conflict within my heart every time I pick up Berserk to read. Another reason I feel just a sharp conflict within my body whenever I try to read Berserk is just due to the fact that while I'm enjoying this manga and while I'm flying right through it in terms of, like, whenever I pick it up, I just feel like I need to take my time with it, and I feel that I need to slow down and make sure that I don't not burn myself out on Berserk, but so I don't catch up. And that's for the reason of hiatus. Now, you should, if you've been in this community for long enough, especially if you've watched or read things like Berserk or Hunter x Hunter, you should be very familiar with the word hiatus. For all of you who don't know, a hiatus is just, in this instance, in this circumstance, when a mangaka decides to take a break from their manga and decides to not write for a while, basically going on break. Now, two main things that suffer from this, the two most popular manga that suffer from hiatus syndrome, are Berserk and Hunter x Hunter. Now, Hunter x Hunter is something that I'll talk in more depth about in another video, but as for Berserk, I am aware that it has been on hiatus, and it's been in hiatus hell for quite a long time. It's just been in and out of limbo in terms of when it's going to appear and when manga chapters are even going to be released. And I personally find it a little hard to get motivated to continue reading a series when I know in the bottom of my heart and when I logically think about it that it might not receive an ending. It honestly, genuinely just might never receive an ending worthy of its caliber, or an ending period, right? We know that Berserk is on chapter 360, with 361 actually being delayed when it was hyped up for quite a long time. And I start to see Berserk fans, whether it be on Twitter or other forms of social media, either being extremely hyped for a new chapter, or some people, some previous Berserk fans, some Berserk fanatics that I've seen, seem to become apathetic to the series, because how can you care for a series that when you're caught up on, you can't expect it to be finished? And that it's that apathy, it's that idea of finding a good series and getting into a good series without ever getting a good ending that worries me and is kind of putting me slightly off to Berserk. Once again, I just want to reiterate, for all you guys that have read Berserk and know its quality, I am not denying that Berserk is an amazing read and an amazing manga. I am just saying that with the knowledge that I have now, it makes me hesitant to read it. It makes me hesitant to get into it and dive into it the same way I can dive into other manga. For example, I'll dive into something like Slam Dunk or any other manga that I know is finished, or I know that is coming to a swift ending, because I know that I can count on that to have a significant ending, and to have an ending that, even if it won't satisfy me, will close this part of my manga consuming life. If I can't get that with two manga, being Hunter x Hunter and Berserk, that I expressly enjoy, I just feel like I'll be missing part of that experience, and I feel that Berserk as a whole and as an art piece will be missing part of its quality. Because can you really consider Berserk a complete product, or can you really consider it a masterpiece when this masterpiece hasn't even finished yet? I just feel these conflicting feelings, and this video is more of me just talking to you guys and just explaining it to you, as I'll be talking about this and referencing these feelings and this conflict and my own, I think, unique perspective on Berserk as I go throughout Berserk, give you guys my thoughts and give you guys my analyses. With Berserk, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a special approach to it. That way it can pace myself. And hopefully, even though I know this is very naive to believe, hopefully with how much time I plan on taking on Berserk in each arc, maybe Kitaro Miura will be continuing the manga by then. But I know that that wish is a wish that many have had, and not any have really had fulfilled. But the way I'm going to be breaking down Berserk in these next few weeks and months, possibly, is I'm going to be going arc by arc. And within each arc, I'm going to create, character videos, analyses on characters in that specific arc. I will also be breaking down the arcs as a whole, and I'll just be going through Berserk in painstaking detail, writing out very long scripts, just going into these characters, this world that has been built within Berserk, and I'll just be going over how I, as someone who knows where Berserk is going to go, where the trajectory is going to go, explaining to you my perspective on it. And hopefully I think this is a perspective that very few people have been able to show, because most people talk about Berserk from the perspective of basically your first time reading. And even though this is my first time, I think I have just a bit of a unique perspective, and I hope that this perspective is something that's interesting to you guys and interesting for you to watch as I go through. I hope that this journey is something that we can both go along as we read Berserk.